All right, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Chopping It Up show. I'm your host, Joe Beard. Happy to be of service for you today. Today is November 10th, 2024, 3:07 on the West Coast and 6:07 on the East Coast. We appreciate all those listening live or listening or watching live, or if you are watching the podcast or the replay on YouTube, on Facebook, or wherever we are on our platforms, we appreciate the support. Always remember you can always Google the Marching Podcast, and at this point, we got a whole lot of stuff. You can go to the marchingpodcast.com, check out our website. You can go to our merch store, and the proceeds from that merch store go to support our National Signing Day, which happens in the spring. And so I'm really excited about this guest. So we'll be actually digging some more back into some of my days outside of band on this. And we definitely want to promote a great book that's out there. You guys can get it on Amazon, From Ashes to Beautiful, A Story of Hope for the Hurting. And we are here with the wonderful author and my personal friend and like spiritual advisor, the one and only Judith Webb. How are you doing in this podcast today?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad to talk to you and see you. It's been a long time actually seeing you, but
Yeah.
I know we communicate every day. But thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And yeah, it's really cool having you on because you've done a lot for me. And again, I want people to go out and buy your book. I've read the book, I have my copy. It was a really good read, and you shared a lot. And I know that we talked about why you shared what you shared, and so we'll get into that here. So the other folks can chime in and hear, and about your share and about where you come from and everything like that. So I'm really excited to put you on the map here.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're humble here at the Marching Podcast Network. We don't have millions of subscribers, but um,
yet.
yeah, there you go. Yet,
Yes.
but definitely, it's always cool to just create the content and again, just reach out to people who have been special to me in my life. And so, I definitely wanted to give you your shine here today.
Oh.
So let's get right into it, Judith. Where are you from?
Well, I was born and raised in Indiana, Pennsylvania, which is 60 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Just a small town, college town. It's really grown now, but at the time growing up, it was just a small town and like a country town. So
Right.
that's where I was born and raised.
Okay, okay. Now, are your parents, your folks, and all of that are from Indiana? And I have to say Indiana, Pennsylvania now,
Right.
because when I first heard about, and went there, people were like, "Well, is it in Indiana or is it in Pennsylvania?" That's what I always heard. But
Yes,
it's in the city is Indiana and the state is Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania,
So,
right.
so are your folks from Indiana?
My father was born and raised in Indiana. My
Okay.
mother she was born in Walterboro, South Carolina, and then lived in New York. And then when her mom died, she came to Indiana, PA to live with an uncle. And so that's how my parents met. But she was
Wow.
very young when she came to Indiana, PA. So, um, yeah, they kind of grew up together then, you know, since she was there, and that's where he was born.
Okay, okay, that's good to know.
Mhm.
Cause yeah, I knew South Carolina.
Mhm.
My folks are from, well, my mom's side of the family is from North Carolina, but my grandmother was born in South Carolina, and I believe my grandfather was too.
Okay.
But yeah, so South Carolina, the Carolinas, a good place.
Yes.
But that's really cool. I didn't know. Well, I think I did. I wasn't sure about your mom living in New York.
Hmm.
and then coming down there to Indiana. Okay, so so your parents there have met. Now, where did you go to like middle school and high school and all that there, the Indiana area?
Well, I went to middle school at East Pike, and then went to Indiana area senior high school, junior and senior high school for my high school career.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now in high school and all of that, were you having, I guess, like, what did you think that you wanted to do? Did you think you wanted to write a book back then? Did you think you wanted to be an author?
You know what? From elementary school, I always remembered I would write books, and I
Wow.
would make my own little cover, and I could just in my mind picture like I made a flower on the one with yarn, and
Oh,
but
wow.
I always remember writing, and um, it was just something that I always loved to do,
Mhm.
and I also would make cards for people. Like I always just I'm talking about from a young child. That's what I enjoyed doing. Um, so at that time, I was just writing books and stories, but I never really thought about writing a book until
Mhm.
later on in life. In high school, I was in the marching band. I twirled rifle. I was very shy in school,
Okay.
and I remember going to my 10th year class reunion, and some of the guys said, "Yeah, you were so stuck up in high school."
Oh,
And I was
really?
like, "Really?" I said, "I was so shy that I didn't really talk to people."
Right.
And they thought I was stuck up. And I was like, "I am so far from being stuck up." But yeah, so it was nice. I love the band part, and I know you were in the band as well, but I love watching marching bands and listening to them.
So that's really cool. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so what made you want to join the marching band?
I just I started I was interested in the rifle, twirling rifle.
Okay.
And I tried out and made it, so it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, and not anybody in your family, did they do anything? Were they in the band or play instruments or anything like that?
No. No.
Wow, so you just saw it and you wanted to do it.
Yes. And
Okay.
back then, we had the uniforms that were wool, and they probably weighed 20 pounds, and the hat was probably 10 inches with the
Right,
fur, and nothing like they wear today.
right, right. Okay, wow, that's cool. I don't think I knew that you were in
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the auxiliary or anything like that. Now, did you
Uh-huh.
march all 4 years?
Um, I believe I did my junior and senior years.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, that's good to know. And then you
Hmm.
know what's funny about hearing that folks say that you were stuck up. I I've had a lot of the experiences now since we're older because like we can look back and see what we did and everything. A lot of
Hmm.
the shy people they just
Hmm.
didn't say anything, and then people for some reason think
Right.
that they're all that or something like
Hmm.
that.
Right.
But it seems like a lot of people take shyness for like timid or scared. But if
Hmm.
someone doesn't talk to you, they just automatically think that you're mean or
Right.
something like that. I know that I was shy. I kind of broke it the older I got, but
Hmm.
later on, people were saying like, "Oh yeah, man, you thought you were cute." Or something like that. People would
Hmm.
say that to me later, and I was like, "Man, I was scared to
Hmm.
even go over and say things to people, at
Right.
one time." So
Hmm.
it's funny that I think I guess that's just how things are.
Right. And two, people didn't realize that I was going through trauma during
Right.
my high school. And so I did keep to myself because my self confidence was horrible. And
Right.
whenever they said that to me, I laughed because I was like, um, and here in my mind, I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm the ugliest person in the world. I never went to any of the proms. I was just,
Really?
no, I never went to a prom. I was always by myself.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. Oh, I didn't know that either.
Hmm.
So I know you have brothers and sisters.
Hmm.
W- Now, so what's the order? Because it's four of you guys total, right?
Right.
Okay.
So it's my brother Stan, then me, then my sister Linda, and then my brother Joe.
Joe. Okay, now Joe. Okay.
Mhm.
So so I'll tell the listeners then how we know each other then.
Okay.
So after I finished Jackson State, um, I wanted to get into geography because
Mhm.
my undergrad was history and everything had math. So I felt like that was like the easiest transition. And I was not ready to get a job or any I was not ready to like grow up or anything like
Yeah.
that. I wanted to party some more, but I did want to like, you know, extend my education. But I wanted to do it at a PWI or what we know as predominantly white institution.
Hmm.
Because I went to a black college and I wanted
Hmm.
to see what it was like going to a predominantly white institution. And
Hmm.
so IUP, they gave me, I believe they gave me the biggest scholarship out of the places I applied.
Okay.
I actually I wanted to go to New York
Oh.
because at the time it was a lot of the East Coast, West Coast stuff.
Hmm.
And I wanted to go to New York and I wanted to be there. And I went there the year before for a visit and it just didn't mesh with me or something. I can't remember but it was just something. And then, of course, as you know, that the following year was 9/11.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like the universe protected me because I don't
Right.
even know what it would have been like if I was
Yes.
there with all of that
Hmm.
going on. So I picked IUP.
Hmm.
And I remember my parents were like, "Where is it now?" Like, and I was like, it's outside Pittsburgh. So for a while, I started just telling people outside Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
And then I went up here. I went up for a visit, and got into the school. And
Hmm.
again, the universe, God, you know how it is.
Hmm.
I had a friend of mine at my church growing up back home.
Hmm.
And his mother, and as you know, when you're a child in the church, it's like everyone older is like your elder. So they're either like an auntie or uncle or something.
Yeah.
And then your friends or your church friends. And so you get to
Hmm.
know everyone's family because they're all there.
Right.
And one of my friend's mothers, I believe her husband or his brother or something like that was from Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And I was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you joking?" Like, And so he then told me that, "Oh yeah, I knew all about it. I was there. And I remember he said the college always had a good football team." And
Hmm.
so that's when he gave me Mrs. Webb's number.
Uh-huh.
And so I got her number and I think I called her when I got up there and she
Hmm.
said, "Oh, well, it's nice to meet you. Have you found a church home?" That's what she said. And I was like, "Well, no, I don't." I said I hadn't really seen like anything but the college around here.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "Oh, well, you need to make sure that you go to church."
Hmm.
And so she, gave me the address of the church.
Hmm.
And then I started going because it was definitely a transition because Indiana was not like anything I had seen before.
Right.
And other than class, I was trying to get acclimated to the area. And I thought, I was like, well, hey, going to church was part of me growing up. You at least have
Hmm.
that church family or at least, that spiritual side.
Right.
So that was really, really helpful. And then I go into the church, and it was just all family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was your dad, and then I saw you, Stanford, Joe and Linda, but everyone, had their family, and then all the little kids running around, which I
Yeah.
have to say, to this day, to see them all grown is like
Yeah.
crazy to me
I
now,
know.
you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
But it was a really good experience. It really got me through graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that it played out like it did. And probably, of course, me not going to those other schools that I applied to, I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
met Miss Webb, the guy at
Right.
my church, how it all came together.
Yes.
So it really was a blessing
Mm-hmm.
to meet you there. So then that rolls into a little bit because it's your family's church.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you guys start a church?
Well, my from Indianapolis, God told him to move to Indiana, Pennsylvania. And
Wait,
so
wait, wait,
he
hold on. We kind of
moved to
lost you for a
Indiana,
second.
and he said, God told him to start a church, and he said that he was going to need faith. And so he told him to name it Faith Temple Church of God in Christ. And we were in just this little wee teeny tiny building, and like when
Mhm,
you walked, the floors would move with you. The bathroom, there was an outhouse. So that's where we started at. And people just came to the church from the community. And as the church was growing, God told him he was going to give him a church. And so um, years later, there was a building that opened up, and it was actually where my mom's uncle had pastored at. And so he bought that church, and he just assumed, that was the church that God was going to give him. Well, in um, 1976, that church in February, it burnt to the ground.
mhm,
And we had to worship at the community center. So we had church at the community center, and um, in September of in February, the church burnt. So people from the community came together. They did the blueprints, the building. When God said he was going to give him a church, that's just what he did. He
mhm.
gave him that church. And we didn't know anything.
Right.
But
Right.
as we were worshiping in the community center, he one Sunday, it was September 19th of 1976, that same year, someone came in and called my mom over, and my mom was crying, and she went to my dad, and he went to his dad, and then they ran out of the church and ran down the alley, and here my grandfather's two daughters had been murdered.
Mhm,
And so um, whenever it took faith for him to get through that and still trust God after his church burnt to the ground. He sat there watching it, and to see your grandfather crying, it,
mhm.
it was so heartbreaking. But God was faithful. He got through the death of his daughters, and the family endured a lot of tragedies, but God was faithful through it all. And so then we worshiped in that building for quite a few years. And then my grandfather passed in 1991. And then my father has been pastoring now for 33 years.
Wow. Wow. So So let me go back some. Now you say
Hello.
set. Yeah, you can't hear me. Hold on, because I can hear you. You can't hear me. Can you still see me?
Hello.
Oh man, we having some technical difficulties here. Can you
Hello.
hold on? Let me try something here. This is the first time this happened. All right, can you hear me, Judith?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, you still can't hear me, huh? Yeah. Hold on here. Hold on here.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry to all the people the people listening. Looked like we had another technical issue here. Hold on just 1 second for me. All right.
I,
Now I can hear you can hear me now?
I can. I don't know what happened.
I don't either. Cause cause
Oh.
cause you started and you said and you went out for a second and then
Uh-huh.
you came back. You were back with Indianapolis. You said Indianapolis.
Oh.
So
Oh.
really quick. So we got to backtrack a little bit. So
Okay.
what happened? You said that at the very beginning, and I guess someone was in Indianapolis. What happened there?
My grandfather and his family were from Indianapolis, and
Um.
God told him to move to Indiana, Pennsylvania, and start a church. And so he told him, the name of the church because he said he was going to have faith. And so he named the church Faith Temple Church of God in Christ.
Okay. So your grandfather is this your grandfather on your dad's
My
side?
dad, yes.
Your dad. That's right. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Now your grandfather on your mom's side. Do you know if they were from the Carolinas? I guess.
Um, yeah, they were originally, and yeah, that's where they were all at. And then
Okay.
um, they moved to New York.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I think we're back. I'm glad we back.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't know what yeah, I don't know what happened there. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So now you told the story. He moved to Indiana.
mhm.
You guys were in like a building that wasn't all that,
Yeah,
let's say that. And then the other building where you guys now that presented itself, and then you guys moved to that building.
yes.
And then it burned down.
Hmm.
And then you were in another place, and then that's when you found out you heard about your. I guess those would be your cousins. Would have been your cousins.
My aunts.
Your aunts there. That's right. That's
Hmm.
right. Your aunts.
Hmm.
Um, and then you guys then got back to the building where you are now, or did they rebuild? They rebuilt it.
Yes, I didn't know if you heard that story, but whenever the church that we were in, um, it was just a real little old building that had an outhouse and
Yeah, I heard that
okay,
part. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, when that church burnt down, then the community all came together and rebuilt the church for no charge.
Okay. All right. And that's the
Mhm.
church where I saw you guys. So that's all. The funny thing about that church is like it's a night. When last time I was there, it was a nice
Mhm.
church, but it was just um it was always just your family there.
Uh-huh.
And then what I remember to one time was it was always around my birthday. you guys were celebrating the anniversary of that church.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So when you said September 19th, I'm September the 18th.
Okay.
And I remember that one year you guys had invited the other church from Philadelphia
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate the anniversary.
Pastoral. Uh-huh.
And man, they were lively.
Yeah.
Uh, they were, I mean, yeah, they were jumping and stomping and everything. And for me, even like say as a black man as myself,
Mhm.
that was still new because
Uh-huh.
my church growing up was Presbyterian.
Okay.
And even my mother's church was Presbyterian. So, they're very
Mhm.
like calm and all of that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even my dad's church, when we would go back to Mississippi, they're Methodist, but it wasn't like a Baptist church. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
where I had seen. Um, but yeah, that was something because then it was a lot of them too. You remember they had
Oh
bust out
yeah.
there
Yes.
and they
Yes.
filled up the church, and I was like, wow, this
Mm-hmm.
is like
Yeah.
like we back in South Carolina or something here now,
Yes.
So I remember that. That was a really good memory.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I remember it was September around my birthday. Okay, so then your grandfather passed in 91, and then your dad has been the church. He's still kicking, huh? He's still
Yes, he
pastor.
is. Yes, just turned 85 and
Wow.
still out working and mulching leaves now, but he's all in the summer cutting grass and he'll be shoveling snow, like using a truck though, and but he's just always been active and trying to, just help others in the community. And I don't know how many lawns now that he cuts during the summer.
Wow.
But yeah, he hasn't stopped. It's just he just keeps going.
That's good. That's great.
Hmm.
I definitely want to be like that, in
Yes.
my 80s, still
Yes.
moving around like that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really
Hmm.
cool. Okay, so then you've had the church, and then I met you, and then I even remember I was going to like the Bible study.
Hmm.
I think that was like Wednesday nights or something like that, I
Probably
believe.
Tuesdays.
Or
Hmm.
Tuesdays. Yeah,
Hmm.
Tuesdays. Went to the Bible study on Tuesdays.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got married with my first wife, I remember.
Okay.
And then she came, and so then because she then moved to Indiana with me,
Hmm.
she started going to the church. And I remember she really appreciated that because she was from Mississippi,
Hmm.
and a lot of church going folks down there. So
Oh yes.
that was always super important to her about
Hmm.
finding a church home. And so we were able to go there, and
Hmm.
she felt really comfortable there. So I remember I was even, and when I graduated, I was like, it definitely was, the good man looking out for me,
Yes. Yes.
sending me there, but also
Hmm.
where I actually had a church home where
Right.
I'm actually, able to meet you.
Hmm.
I never kept up with your brothers,
Uh-huh.
but I kept up with you over the years, and then I kept up with Linda because she was the one that did the Bible study.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I always had her like on Facebook or something like that.
Hmm.
Like, so I always kept up with the two of you. And
Uh-huh.
so I always thought that was great. But definitely tell your pops I said hello
Oh,
if you
I sure
can.
will.
And
Yes.
I got to get Miss Webb's number to reach out to her again if possible.
Oh, you're talking about Nell Webb, Mother Nell Webb.
Nell, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
She
yes.
was the one whose number that
Okay.
the guy gave me from my church.
Okay,
And she
yes.
was like, "Where you go to church?" And I was like, "Where?" I was like, "Is a church around here?" Like, that's all I see is the school.
Yeah.
Um, oh, and really quick, totally blew my mind about Pennsylvania and package stores. Like that was like where they only serve alcohol at alcohol stores. Like it
Oh,
wasn't at the grocery store or wasn't at the gas
no.
station.
Mm-mm.
And then I always grew up watching Bill Cosby, and he
Mhm.
always would eat hoagies and subs. And I
Mhm.
didn't catch the correlation with Pennsylvania
Okay.
and all of the sub shops there.
Mhm.
So I really had a good time when I was there in Pennsylvania, but just seeing all of the sub shops. So I
Yes.
gotta ask you there, in Indiana, do they still have the subs and
Yeah,
suds place?
it's still there, but it's under a different name now. I think there's a new
Oh,
owner. And I'm trying to think. I think it's called Brewski's. I'm not positive, but I think that's what it's called.
that was the greatest name I had ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Subs and suds. I was like, wow. So, and that's kind of the cool thing about geography is, when you go to a new
Mhm.
place, how you experience things that are different.
Right. Yes.
I'm really happy that I got a chance to go to IUP
Yes,
for
me too.
graduate school. Yeah, it was really good experience, really good school. I
Hmm.
still keep up with some of my classmates
Oh,
and
good.
some of my teachers. Yeah, but it was
Oh,
it was a really good place.
yes.
So okay, so now um had the history of the church. Now, is the church still, because it was you guys and the kids, is it still
Mhm.
the same? Because a lot of the kids have grown up now. Is
Right.
it still the same as far as like population wise? Is it still the same amount of people there at the church?
Yes. Most of the kids now have kids of their own, and they're in different down in Florida and California, Philadelphia. So New York, they're all scattered around. My youngest son is in Cleveland now. Um,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, they're just all scattered. So there's not a lot of little kids there anymore.
Right.
Oh,
Okay. So you had two sons.
yes,
Now one of them, man, so one of them went in the service. Now, did he
yeah.
come? Was he out here in San Diego?
No, oh, poor thing was stationed in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah, poor dude.
Poor thing.
Right.
But you know what? I remember crying when he told me that that's where he was going to be going. And
Oh,
I thought, oh, that's just so far away. But then I thought, you know what? That's the only place that I've always wanted to visit. So I was able to go out and visit
good.
Hawaii. So that was a blessing. But yeah, he's been out now for like 3 years, and he lives in Indiana, PA. So I get to see him often, and I'll go up to Cleveland to visit my son from time to time, and he comes home. He's just so busy, so he doesn't get to really come home like he would like to, but that's all a part of it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And Cleveland's not real far
No,
from Indiana, right?
no. Well, and I live in Greensburg now, so it's
Okay.
closer for me. It's like 3 hours, so it's not bad at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And so your son, one son went in the service, and the other son, you have to remind me, and we have to let the listeners know, what is he doing again?
He's getting his PhD in neuroscience.
Wow.
Last December, I just have to say this. And listen, he grew up praising God like he was an adult. As a
Really?
child, that boy would praise God. I don't care where we were at. We would be in Walmart and he would just break out in a praise in the doctor's office, and he would
Wow.
just praise God all the time. It was just really something. And then I'll never forget, because in church he always had his bank, but he would take his bank out, and he would always sing the song, Jesus, I'll never forget what you've done for me. And I was
Wow.
always thinking, he's so young. What does he know about what Jesus has done for him?
Right.
But now I see he last, I think it was December, had applied for a grant um, for his science. to be an independent scientist, and he filled this grant out, and you could get a score between 1 and 9. And when he
Mhm.
got his score back, he got a 1. And he was so disappointed. And he called his PI and he was like, "Oh, I didn't expect to do this bad." And she was like, "Call me." So when he called her, she said, "You got a perfect score. 1 was the best score that you could get."
Oh, wow.
And when I saw her, because I went up last May to surprise him, he she told me that 1 in 1 million people get a score like that.
Wow.
And the uh, what the scientists had said about him, I was sitting at work crying, just reading it,
Right.
and I thought, God, I just thank you, because it's nobody but God. God just really worked it out for him. And I didn't tell him when he left for school, "You find a church, and I want you in church every Sunday," because I didn't want to. He grew up in church, and
Right.
he knew the way. He found a church when he went up there, and for the last 3 years, he's been faithful to this church, traveling with the pastor. He sings on the praise team, just very active in the church.
And I think what's really important about that is, no matter, if you feel that you're a church person or it is,
Mhm.
I think that, having the experience like that or like growing up in the church, it's
Mhm.
not even so much about like what you believe, but I do believe that it's a part where um you're establishing like a home away from home type of
Right.
thing. And
Mhm.
so it is important to have that connection there with the
Right.
community. And
Mhm.
so that's very similar to what I did,
Right.
because my parents, they were the same way. They didn't say to me, make sure that, you find a church home, make sure you do
Mhm.
this. Um, but I did think that it was important for me because
Mhm.
even here in California, it's
Mhm.
been different. My experience has been different here. It's like trying to
Mhm.
find like what I like because
Mhm.
California, man, is it's a lot going on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
with churches, you definitely have to find something.
Mhm.
And we found one that we really enjoyed.
Mhm.
But then they actually had a Saturday night service,
Okay.
which was really, really cool because Saturday night there was like our family date night type of thing.
Uh-huh.
And we could go out on Saturday night. And then, on Sunday, we had the whole day Sunday. We didn't have to
Mhm.
do anything. But when the virus happened, they stopped doing those
Uh,
Saturday services.
yeah.
And then we moved. So we moved like far away. So
Mhm.
so it's changed. But even my kids now that I can
Mhm.
see it in them, they feel like, well, there's certain things that they should do to establish themselves. And I
Right.
think, finding a church home or finding, a group or finding something away from home is really important
Right.
when you go away to school.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's cool that he's doing that. We're really proud of him. I
Oh,
remember both of your sons
yes.
like little. I mean, this was
Oh.
2001, you know what I'm saying? So they
Yes.
were little and everyone else's kids. I
Yes.
remember Linda's daughter was a
Mhm.
baby and
Yes.
she would not let Linda like out of her sight. She always cried and she always had her arms up like, "Mommy, come hold me," and Linda would pick her up every time, you know what I'm saying? So, uh, I remember that, but it's really cool to see them, um, grown. There's another I can't remember whose son he was, but he was stationed out here in San Diego.
Okay, so Joe's son Quentin is in the
Quentin,
Marines, yes,
that's
and
him.
he's still out there, yes.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because 'cause I'm
he's
sure
a
he likes
drill
it.
and a drill sergeant.
Wow,
And,
really?
and you know what? I cried when he left for the Marines because I said he'll never make it, because he had 3 sisters and he was always so quiet. He never said anything. And I'm like, he's not going to make it. And then I look at him now and I'm like, wow.
I know. I know because I seen the pictures of him, and I'm sure it looks like he's having a good time out here too.
Yes, yes.
San Diego's really nice.
Uh-huh.
And he grew up with all that snow in Indiana,
Yes,
so I'm sure he
yes,
likes it. So that's
yes.
really cool. That's really a blessing to see
Uh-huh.
them all grown and everything.
Yes.
Okay, so then that leaves me then because you were always there for me with a lot of things because I had my up and down times when I was away in graduate school, and so you were there looking out for me and praying for me and everything. So years later now I'm in California, and then I got divorced and then remarried, and now this time I have kids. And so I
Yes.
think I found you on Facebook or something. I can't remember how I found you, but
Mhm.
we reconnected, and then you said that
Yeah.
you were writing a book. And I was like, "What?" And so
Mhm.
so as soon as you told me about it, I went out and got me a copy, and I started to read it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect. I
Mhm.
wasn't sure, but I didn't know that you were going to tell your story like that. And yeah,
Yes.
I was like, wow, like I was really proud that you put it out there because
Mhm.
I'm sure we all have things about our family or about ourselves that we just won't share. But you definitely
Right.
put it all out there, and it was like a really good book. Like it was a really good read. So that and again, that's kind of what I wanted people watching the show to understand about you, but also that they go out and check out the book. It's on Amazon. Again, it's From Ashes to Beautiful, Story of
Mhm.
Hope for the Hurting by Judith Webb. How did you now? And you told me you started writing and doing all that was younger, but what made you really push through and start to prepare to write this book?
Well, before my mom passed, I told her that I wanted to write a book. And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what, you can write my story as well." And I never really realized all the stuff that she had
Hmm.
gone through. Um, when she was in the hospital, she asked me to bring her a tape recorder. And so she recorded her life story and gave me permission to write about it. And it was, I guess, 19 years after she
Hmm.
passed. And I said, you know what? If I don't write this book, and I had already started writing years ago, but I just never did
Right.
anything with it. And then I teach indoor cycling. And a lot of times after the class, people would be having problems and they wanted to talk. And they're like, you know what? You've never gone through anything because you're always so happy and you're always encouraging and motivational. And I just think that it's wonderful. And I thought, you know what? If I don't write this book, I'm
Right.
never going to do it. So that's when I just sat down and I was like, let's get this started and finished. And I said, because I want people to know that you don't have to become bitter.
Mhm.
It can make you better no matter what you go through. Every day, we don't know what we're going to face. But I find every morning I send out an encouraging text to over 50 people. That's how I start my day, just to make sure people are
Mhm.
okay, just to let them know that they're loved and they're cared about, and just to encourage them. And I've always sent cards to people, I've been doing it for years. So it was just like a relief for me to just finally, everything that I have been holding on to for years and years, it all came out. And it was like a relief to me. And I said, you know what? I don't really care how people view me. What I want is for people to know that you can go through and you can make it, that there's hope, that as long as we put our trust and faith in God, He'll bring us through anything. Is it always easy? No. Did I want to give up? Yes. I thought the world would be better without me because I was hurting so
Mhm.
bad, but I kept everything inside. So now I've, just told everything that has happened to me, and then I am gonna eventually get a second book together. But yeah, I just want people to know that there's hope, and that just to encourage people and let them know that, regardless, I made it through and you can too.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm one of the people that gets your texts. So, a
Mhm.
funny thing is that that's been a while now, and
Mhm.
when I read them, I always look and I always think, so I'm gonna wait and see when I'm gonna see like the same one. Like how often does she recycle one or like, but I have not seen it. I was like, is she making these in the morning? Wow, this is like every morning is something. And then what's cool about it, as you know, is you never know what someone's going through. So you
Right.
never know what you say in a
Yeah.
certain moment, how that affects people.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
sometimes when I'm reading the text, depending on where I am mentally, it'll be right on
Mhm.
time, and I'm really appreciative. And that's why I always make sure that I reply back to say
Yeah.
thanks.
And I tell everyone, you do not have to reply. It's just something that I do. And like every morning, I'll say, God, what do you want me to say to them today? And, a lot of times I'll think, oh, I don't know why I'm sending this. But then that's when I get the feedback like, oh, you don't know how much I needed
Right.
this today. So I really feel like I was just born to encourage
Yeah.
people.
And I believe that too. Especially,
Hmm.
because, I had my down period in graduate school and you were there.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
what would you say has been your most experience in writing, like the biggest memory you would say in writing the book? Or was there a story that happened in you writing the book or feedback that you got about the book? What has been like a memory that
Oh,
jumps out about the book for you?
yeah, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about the book, and I think being able to write about my mom and really see her for who she was. I mean, I always knew she was special, but to actually see, like, she went through so much, and I would have never known that she went through those things because she was the most loving, caring person, and she always accepted people. And even when she passed away, um, she all these people were coming talking about the things that she did for them, which we had no
Mhm.
idea, but that's just who she was. And I said, you know what, I don't ever want anyone to come into my presence and not feel loved. And so that's every single day, that's my mission. I don't want to meet anyone and make them feel like, oh, geez, she treated me snobby, or she didn't speak to me, or nope. I speak to everyone and smile and do what I can to help
Yeah,
whomever.
and I guess with the things that you have been through as well, because I guess giving some folks a teaser to the book, like you talked about, you introduced the book talking about your mom. You did a little bit of the
Hmm.
family history, but you talked about some of the things that your mom went through. Um,
Hmm.
and so later, when you told me that she shared those things with you. So it made me realize, and you said it too, as far as keeping some document or having some documentation about your family history, like what's going on in
Hmm.
your family, what your dad did, what your mom did, and having them at least, like you said, a
Hmm.
tape recorder and her recording
Right.
that. Um,
Hmm.
that was something. So for the folks that
Mhm.
that to go out and buy the book, your like you said, your mom went through some stuff, and of course,
Mhm.
that was a trip to me. But to hear it was happening, what happened to your mom, to hear that was happening like inside the community, that's
Right.
what kind of blew my mind.
Yes.
And of course, I'm assuming these were all black folks. So
Yes.
I'm like, damn, like really? So like,
Yep.
wow, okay. So that took me out. But
Mhm.
then you started sharing about yourself.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, Judith, that's a lot, that
Mhm.
you put in a book for everybody to read.
Mhm.
Even like your sons, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? For
Yeah.
them to possibly read it. That showed a lot of courage,
Mhm.
and what you did. And so one thing that I definitely took in my mind is that, like you said, if you have something in your family history, or if you feel like you something, you start writing it down, start recording it.
Mhm.
And then I can't remember how many days later, it was like that same year, I got an opportunity. One of my friends that I do this podcast with,
Mhm.
she reached out to me because um, they were writing a book and the
Mhm.
HBCU band experience,
Mhm.
and they were reaching out to individuals to tell their story.
Right.
And so I was like, wow, this is amazing, because I just talked to you and you told
Mhm.
me that I need to start documenting some of this stuff.
Yes. Mhm.
So again, you were there, or that connection was there.
Mhm.
But I got scared too about writing it,
Mhm.
and I was able to document it. And then, now, I have a book out there. I have a chapter. I feel like I have
Yeah.
the best chapter in the book too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I actually told
Yes.
a story. Like, I thought
Right.
about you, and this was after I think I finished reading your book. But yeah, you
Mhm.
told a story, and a
Mhm.
lot of people in the book, it's like, they were sharing about how things made them feel. I actually told a story, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so that made a difference. But it was like, Judith was the one that really got me going. And so now the only thing that I regretted now is that my father has passed. I wish
Mhm.
I would have got him down and
Mhm.
recorded him telling stories
Mhm.
about things. And now my mother's here, and so I definitely, I've listened to some of the things she's told me. And
Yes.
then, like yesterday, uh, I met my cousin for the first time, and so
Yes.
she told me
Mhm.
stories about my mother's side of the family. There's not as many of them as my dad's side,
Okay.
so I didn't know as many things. So
Mhm.
I'm really appreciative to you for a lot of things, but definitely what's been, like I said, the courage in this book. And for
Mhm.
anyone, again, watching or listening, the book has a lot in it, like your personal stories, and it's not scripted. This is not
Right.
like a Tyler Perry book, like
Right.
something he made up. This is like,
Mhm.
your real story. And so, I mean, wow, like I said, you really displayed a lot of courage,
Mhm.
putting this stuff down on paper.
But you know what? If we aren't transparent with other people, how can we really empathize with them?
Hmm.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of people that say, well, you don't understand. And I said, try me.
Right.
Tell me your story. Okay, now let me tell you what happened to me. And they're like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, how did you make it through? And I said, it was only through God because honestly, I don't know how people can live without Him. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have been able to make it through all the things that I've gone through without Him.
Yeah. And then, like you said, not only you made on the other side, you got two healthy sons, doing really good things, good positive
Mhm.
things.
Yes.
And And yeah, I mean, it's really cool that now, and then that they're not too far from you,
Right.
so you can see them and everything.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's really cool to see them grow up,
Yes.
to be an adult.
Yes.
Um, your son that's in the service, I mean, anybody that's in the service for me, I'm appreciative
Hmm.
of them.
Yes.
I remember, again, this was 2001 when I got there to Indiana,
Hmm.
and you know how I think it's like the police academies. I don't know if they still do it, but on the
Hmm.
track around the football field, my apartment, there was, I don't know if you know the Carriage House and Essex House.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so, it's like walking distance from the football field and all of
Right.
that, and so I
Hmm.
used to run around the track in the morning, and then one guy from, I think, the Army or something, he was like, "Yeah, I see you running, what?" And I said I was in graduate school, and he was like, "Yeah, you should join the service, and then you'll come out as an officer and and I was like, "Wow, that is interesting."
Hmm.
And I think it was like that next week, 9/11 happened, and I was like, "You know what? I
Yeah.
don't think I'm joining the
Hmm.
service anytime
Yeah.
soon." I'm, I'm scared.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that your son has, again, the courage to go out and do
Yes.
that. And
Yeah.
then your other son, like, wow, that's a PhD and
Neuroscience.
neuroscience.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. So so
Yeah, he's working on it on finding a cure for Alzheimer's and dementia. So that's what yeah, he's in the lab all the time.
wow,
Hmm.
wow, that's cool. Yeah. So again, it's always good to talk to you, and I've been very appreciative of you throughout these years, and your family and your pops. Like, your pops he was a nice guy. You know what's funny when you talk about him cutting yards? I remember him, other than him being in a suit for church, him being in
Hmm.
some overalls.
No.
Like I,
Yeah. He
yeah,
worked for Sears for a long time and as a service technician, and yeah, just always out working.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. And I have
Hmm.
to sit and think about everyone. I remember you and your brothers and sisters, but there was some other family members there
Hmm.
at the church. I can't remember, but it was a black guy, and I think maybe you're a niece of yours that was married, and they were there. They had like a cookout or something at their house, and we went over there. But
Hmm.
there were a couple of other family members that now I'm thinking about.
Hmm.
I guess that they're doing okay and everything,
Yeah.
but it definitely, you guys embraced me being away from home.
Hmm.
And I always was very appreciative of that, but because I know that that got me through
Hmm.
the graduate program there.
Right. Yeah.
I had somewhere to go on Sundays, and then
Hmm.
I would go to the Bible study. But if there was, I remember, like I said, there was a cookout a couple times, but I had
Hmm.
some other family there.
Right.
Um, Miss Webb took me somewhere. I think she took me out to eat one time because I was hungry. I mean,
Yeah.
I was really lucky. And then even
Uh-huh.
now to hook back up with you and to read
Yeah.
your book, and then you really pushed me to do
Mhm.
the chapter of my book
Yes.
and to start documenting things for my family.
Hmm.
So I'm
Yes.
really thankful to you.
Oh, okay.
Um, so you guys, again, the book is, From Ashes to Beautiful: A Story of Hope for the Hurting. And you can go on Amazon. You can even Google Judith Webb,
Yes.
and the book will pop up on an Amazon link.
Yes.
From Ashes to Beautiful. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and again, I was not expecting you to tell. I thought it was gonna be like a testimonial about like church.
Hmm.
I didn't think it was you were putting your business out there like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, it's a really good read. You guys make sure you go out and get it today because it's definitely worth it. But like you said, you just being there, and you might be going through something.
Mhm.
Someone's always there to support you through, and
Right.
you've definitely done that for me, and I see that you do that for other people. So I'm really thankful to you for that.
It's my pleasure. That's what I'm here for. And, I often say sometimes we suffer in order to help someone else, to let them know that they really can make it through. And so if my suffering has not been in vain, because I know that I've helped others. So that's what it's all about.
Right, right. It is. So again, you guys make sure you can go on to Amazon, From Ashes to Beautiful, A Story of Hope for the Hurting by Judith Webb. Really quick before we end the interview, how did you get to Greensburg? How far is Greensburg from Indiana, and how did you get
Um,
over there?
it's about 40 minutes, maybe.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay, so not that
yes,
far.
it's not real bad, but yeah. So I was in a bad marriage and had to get out, and I was also teaching cycling in Greensburg, and so I just found a place here in Greensburg, and I've been here probably for 11, 12 years.
Okay, okay,
So yeah.
yeah, and you actually shared that too in the book.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah, you guys make sure that again, you guys get the book. Um, so we come to the end of the interview. And then I always like to, I'm still working with music, my
Uh-huh.
music type of stuff here. So let me give you a round of applause here.
Oh.
And again, yeah, like I said, met you in 2001, and definitely I got to make sure that I get Miss Webb's number and
Okay.
say
Yeah.
hello to her,
Yeah.
because she started everything, and it's so
Yeah.
funny. I think it was. I said, "Hey, I'm from St. Louis," and something. She said, "And where do you go to church?" I was like the I was like the first 30 seconds of stuff
Uh-huh.
that she said. And I was like, "A church? Where do you see a church?" Because I hadn't been around Indiana that long, and you
Uh-huh.
know how small Indiana is.
Yes.
This IUP was all I had seen. Even if
Right.
I went past it, if you go downtown, you see all the bars and stuff.
Right.
So I was like, "What?" Like, I hadn't even seen any, like, subdivisions or anything like that.
Right.
And
Yes.
she said, "Well, where you go to church?" And I was like, "Well, what?" So that started everything, and then I started, I think the first couple times I met her. I can't remember how. I think she gave me the address or something, or I can't remember, but,
Mhm.
um, she took me with her one time, and then again, I think she took me out to eat somewhere or something.
Uh, oh.
So I gotta hear from her, you know.
Yes. Yes.
I gotta hear from her. And then definitely say hello to your dad for me, or if I
Yes.
could
I
say
sure
hello to
will.
him myself. I really
Yes.
love to do that because your dad
Yes.
was always a nice guy. He was
Uh-huh.
always smiling, and
Yes.
he was always, saying, "Hey Joe, how you doing?" You know, he
Oh.
and
Yeah.
that was the cool thing about your family, is like you guys took me in, but you really wanted me to succeed, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
You really did, and I'm really thankful to your family and to the church and everything,
Yes.
and how things worked out. Um, so to close the interview, I do want to ask, do you have any advice for anyone? Anything that you wanted to share, or anything that you wanted to sign off here at the end of the show here?
Well, what I wish that I had done is love myself. I think I would have avoided a lot of the things that I've gone through had I had more self esteem and boundaries.
Mm,
So it's okay to set boundaries, and it's okay to not, it's okay to say no. You don't
mm,
have to please people. Um, the only one that we really have to please is God. And so, um, it's our life to live. We don't have to live our life for someone else. And I think just the biggest thing is to love yourself, take care of yourself.
That's really good. That's really good. And that's something that I'm learning myself.
Hmm.
And I've also learned as far as, only loving yourself, but everything that we need is inside of us. We just
Yes,
have to, we have a relationship with our higher power, with God.
yes,
It's really, really important because I think, and I know in my experience, I spent a lot of time reaching outside of myself for happiness,
yes.
whether if it was someone else
Mhm.
or, drugs, alcohol, something. It was always something else out
Right.
there that would make me happy, or money,
Mhm.
or status, or like achieving something, and then having
Mhm.
other people say, "Oh, you achieved this." Like, I thought that that would make me happy, and then sometimes you get those things, and then you're still not happy,
Right.
you know. So I really think, I'm appreciative of you saying that as far as love yourself. So for all the folks watching or anybody watching it, making sure that you love yourself, and
Yes.
I think that you really paint the picture well in the book about that.
Mhm.
So again, you guys make sure it's From Ashes to Beautiful, A Story of Hope for the Hurting by Judith Webb. And again, it's on Amazon. A really, really good book. And really proud of you for writing the book.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah, and
you.
I'm glad that I got the book and I got a chance to read it.
Yes.
It's been a really pleasure, meeting you and getting to know
Yes.
you and everything.
Yes.
And I'm just really thankful.
Oh, I am too, and I'm always here for you 24/7. So I'm not going anywhere.
That's good.
Yes.
And I'll say hello on the text tomorrow because
Yes.
I get it. I know I'm gonna get the text, reminding me of
Absolutely.
something. But yeah, just like I said, I ain't seen two in a row yet. I mean,
No, well, that's a good thing because sometimes I wonder, did I send this before?
wow. Well, no, I hadn't seen it. I
Oh,
hadn't
well,
seen it.
good,
So
good,
so
good.
that's good. So yeah, I really appreciate it, Judith. Thanks for
I
being on the show.
appreciate you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to many more years of knowing you. And
Of
hopefully,
course.
I'll get to meet the boys or your children one of these
Yeah.
days.
That's one of my next projects in my mind. We just
Mhm.
started consistently going out to Charlotte,
Okay.
but I do want to take them to Indiana for like
Yes.
at least like a homecoming or something.
Sure. Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, and I want to take them to Jackson State.
Uh-huh.
I definitely want them, and being around New York and being been to
Uh-huh.
New York and California people
Hmm.
think that they are the center of the universe. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I live in the best city in the world. Like,
Yeah.
and hey, New York is great, LA is great. I got it. I got it.
Right.
But when you come from other places, you appreciate, where you come from, and you can see the
Right.
difference in that.
Yes.
My wife is from LA, and you
Okay.
can't tell her nothing about anything, you know.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh,
I have to remind her because we went back to St. Louis a couple years back, and
uh-huh.
we got off the plane. She was like, "Look at all the trees," because it doesn't rain out here.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yes, that's rain." You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? And those are leaves, and those are
Yes.
plants. Like, so
Yes.
yeah, I totally get it. So that's kind of my next project. I would love to do that and love to
That's
take
great.
them to the church.
Yes.
That would be really, really
Awesome.
cool for them
Yes.
to experience that and meet your
Yes.
dad and everything.
Yes. Oh, that would be so nice.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll definitely keep it in the plans. And
Okay.
again, I thank you for everything. Thanks for being on the show.
Sure. Thank you.
So again, you guys make sure you go to Amazon, From Ashes to Beautiful, A Story of Hope for the Hurting by Judith Webb. Go ahead and get you a copy. We've come to the end of our show. Check out the website, themarchingpodcast.com. Donate what's in your heart. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. We're all over the place. You can Google The Marching Podcast now, and become a fan and follow. And again, our proceeds go to support our students for National Signing Day, telling us and telling the world where they're going to be marching in the fall. We also have some students that have graduated now. We've been doing this long enough where some of the students have graduated, which is really cool. And then we have a couple of seniors this year that will be graduating in the spring. So we'll be bringing them back, talking to them.
Okay.
And even if you're younger or if your parents and your folks are in band, you go ahead and reach out to us because we'll be there to support them to get them to and through college. Yeah, and we feel really good about that here.
That's awesome.
Again, donate what's in your heart. Do whatever you can. Support the show. Always remember the eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. See you next time.
All right.